Hey internets, it's Jake from Mini Terrain Domain, and this is the Druid Problem. Dawnbringers, Rime of the Frostmaiden, Season 5, Episode 15. This is our long-running Dawnbringers campaign happening every Thursday night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, right here on twitch.tv/Mini Terrain Domain. Welcome, everyone. We are so glad to be here yet again for another Thursday, hanging out with you, rolling some dice, telling some tales, and we are going to get started in just a few moments. We are going to, sorry, Automod caught Hawkmere's typo and held it for a moment, so thank you, Jeremy, for doing the Lord's work and allowing that to go through.
Did you just say held it for a moment? Good Lord.
Okay, phrasing.
Just gingerly. It's fine.
It's just for a moment. Hawkmere telling me phrasing.
Oh my God.
All right, as you can see, it's another Thursday and we're off to a roaring start. Oh, man.
I didn't do it this time.
No, you
okay?
didn't. You didn't. You got it out of your system. Oh, well, as I was saying, we are going to get going here in just a moment with this game. We are going to get through a couple quick announcements, and then we will get to playing the game. And yeah, let's see. First up, of course, Jasper's Game Day. We always mention Jasper's Game Day up front. Jasper's is an incredible organization dedicated to raising awareness, education, and ultimately the prevention of suicide through tabletop gaming. We are absolutely thrilled to be partnered with them on a continuing and official basis, especially we are just a hair over a month away from our third annual week-long Jasper's Game Week event that's shaping up to be an incredible 10 days of nonstop tabletop gaming, happening not only here, the biggest stretch is happening here on Mini Terrain Domain, but we've got games happening over on D&D Beyond. We've got games happening on some other channels. We've got Paizo involved at the tail end of the week. Ardent, one of these days I'll get all these up here. I'll put them into a chat command. The other channels that are involved, but we've got some friends over in Australia that are going to be hosting some games in the off hours this weekend. Make sure that you are, if you're not already, follow Jasper's Game Day on Twitter and check out jaspersgameday.com, because this weekend, I believe it is on Sunday, the first seat auctions and raffles go up. And we're doing those staggered, but you'll have an opportunity to bid on an auction style, highest bidder wins, to bid on seats for whoever your favorite players and DMs are. And you'll be able to also enter raffles. So you'll pay a small, I believe it's $5, right around there, for as many tickets as you want. There'll be a drawing, so you'll have a chance that way to get to play in some of those same games. Thursday of the week of Jasper's Game Week, we are going to be playing a one-shot here in our normal... It's going to be our normal Thursday, but it's going to be a couple hours later than usual. Not everybody will be here, but we're going to have Dwight the Big Bearded Nerd joining us and most of the Dawnbringers. And we have opened up a seat that we will be sure to let you know when that seat goes up for auction. So you will have an opportunity to either auction or raffle to play in a game with us, with me as the Dungeon Master, and many of these fine folks seated around the virtual table with you. So keep your eyes out for that. Speaking of ways in which to support Jasper's, of course, there is Initiative Coffee Company. You can type !coffee in the chat and follow the link to get yourself some Metade roast coffee. For every 12-ounce bag you purchase, $3 of that goes to benefit Jasper's Game Day. Huge shout out to Talon and Claw. Not only are they our sponsor, Anthony is a good friend of mine, and they had a very successful last weekend, very successful first ever Talon and Claw TwitchCon. Lots of D&D games. We played a 4-hour Sea of Thieves, raised just over $3,000. The goal was $1,000. $3,000 was raised for Jasper's Game Day, with Talon and Claw being a Jasper's Game Day ambassador. So that was a lot of fun. So we hope to see you for future events like that. And we even had 2 guests play in our pirate game that I DM'd that won. And I believe that was a giveaway or auction item that went up this year, or this event was for a future game to be able to play. Talon and Claw, of course, are also known for making incredible accessories like these dice vaults and other things like rolling trays, etc. You can follow the link. Use code MTDClaw to get 10% off your order and help support the channel. Look up above V's head and you will see the plus 120 and a whole bunch of domain ice sitting up there. Those are a way that we let you, the viewer, have an influence on the game. And what an influence about 3 sessions ago those domain dice had, when the Dawnbringers spent 65 of them to bring down an ancient white dragon. And that's how those are used. You tip $5, you cheer 500 bits, you subscribe, gift subs, raids, all of that stuff earns them domain dice that they can then use to influence the rolls of the dice and change their fate, as it were. So keep that in mind as you're watching. If you haven't renewed your sub, it's been another month, and subs come up for renewal, so check that, or use your Amazon Prime for free gift subscriptions, all of that good stuff. The last thing I want to talk about before we move on to the game proper is just to check how you doing. You doing okay? You might not be doing okay. I'm not doing great. Might surprise you to hear that, but I've been having a rough couple of weeks, and I'm dealing with it. I have, fortunately, I started over a year ago seeing a therapist, and they helped me to deal with my anxiety and depression, but it doesn't, of course, make it go away altogether. But what does help is knowing that it's okay to feel this way. It's okay to not be okay. Knowing that I have friends out there that are going through similar things, and that are also there if I need them. This game itself serves. Being able to play this game with these amazing people is also a form of therapy for me as well. But I just wanted to let you know that if you're feeling this way too, it's okay. I'm there with you, and it's okay to not be okay. But maybe you're wondering about that. Maybe you're struggling with that, and you find yourself needing somebody to talk to. That's fine too. And we do encourage you to please, if you need help, to reach out and talk to somebody. It's as simple as coming here to our chat, whether we're on the air or off the air, doesn't matter. You come here, come in the chat, and you type !help. You'll also see, in fact, right now, along the bottom of the screen, the help messages are showing up. You will find the National Suicide Lifeline phone number and text number, the Canadian Suicide Prevention Services Lifeline and text numbers, available in French and English, and a URL that will provide resources for you wherever you are in the world. Phone numbers, text numbers, doesn't matter what it is, where you are in the world. You can find the one that's closest to you, and that will help you. And we do encourage you to please use those resources and get the help that you need. So I'll just finish with, as we say with Jasper's Game Day, you are not a critical failure. With that, I think it's time to play some Dungeons and Dragons. I need to take a drink of water. This isn't a drinking game. I didn't. The Dawnbringers have been they've been having a time here in Icewind Dale, learning that half of their ship and all of their crew have gone missing because of an ancient white dragon that they eventually learned was the ancient white Arviatris had taken them here to the north, eventually encountering and dealing with Arviatris, killing her in a hard-fought battle, which left them with the victory of destroying the dragon, but nowhere closer to finding where the rest of the ship or their crew, their friends, where they are. They've also discovered that there is a malicious god by the name of Auriel, known as the Frostmaiden, who has plunged the region in the north into an everlasting rime of frost, snow, blizzards, darkness that's been going on for 2 years. Additionally, they recently ran into an old friend of theirs who has not been dealing with the death of her brother very well and has moved to the north, seeming to be under the influence of a dark crystal / ice, possible metal hybrid that she wants to use to turn her brother into Belak the Malevolent and raise 10 towns to the ground, returning Icewind Dale to its natural state of an uninhabited frozen tundra. Along the way, awakening animals, giving them intelligence. Fortunately, the Dawnbringers were able to deal with the immediate threat in the Lonely Wood and make allies of the wolves and the white moose that had been awakened in the area. Most recently, they had headed to Bryn Shander to meet up with somebody or look for somebody that had been investigating this Chardolin, this strange material. Finding that this individual is in fact another old friend of theirs from back in Oakhurst, a young man by the name of Baron, who appears to have been affected by several years in the Feywild. In the less than a year since they last saw him, he has aged 8 years, having been on adventures of his own in other dimensions. They also learned that Bryn Shander, while they were in Lonelywood, they learned of the sacrifices that various towns make to appease the goddess Auriel. In Lonelywood, they have once a month a night of no warmth where they turn off all flame, all sources of heat, and they survive for 24 hours without the means of warmth. But in Bryn Shander, one of the larger settlements, they have a lottery where they sacrifice people once per month, and they witnessed this and found ways of coping with it. It was a harsh reality of life in Icewind Dale. But that day has passed. It is a new day. The Dawnbringers had been speaking with their friend Baron, who had also befriended at some point during a night of drinking with Talmud and Thorgarn. A silver dragonborn had shown up by the name of Trovis and had been working with them, saying that he knew where this old fortress was to the south, where Vi has been holding up. And the Dawnbringers are currently in the stages of planning their trip south to try to find this old Sunblight fortress. Also, as a meta note, the characters reached level 13 after last week's session. So they are newly minted 13-year-olds heading into level 13s. I don't know why I said 13-year-olds.
Just because that's our level of humor,
So, yes,
that doesn't mean...
Yeah,
We're going to have our Muppet Babies episode. All right.
Yep. So it is the next day.
Baby Drown talks like Beaker.
Oh, man. It is the next day. What will you be doing? What would you like to do, Dawnbringers, as you make your preparations to head to Sunblight?
I don't know. We need more sled dogs. I think Fig was in charge of that.
Yes. Fig. You had, in all of my preparations, I forgot to open up my notes. You had actually passed the outfitters here in town when you were heading to the north. I'm trying to recall the name of it, but there was a place on the North Road, not far from the town center, that you could get sled dogs, sleds, everything you need, you'd be able to get a hold of. I believe you had said you wanted to get another sled and 3 more dogs.
Fig would try to get 30 if there was.
I could see that. A whole team. Fig comes back. We don't have a lot of gold left, but look at all these dogs. So Fig, you would not have any issues getting a hold of these animals. Black Iron Blades, run by Garn the Hammer, who I'm trying to remember who of you had spoke to him briefly. Was it Thorgarn? Yeah, Thorgarn and Talmud.
Yeah,
it was Thorgarn, Drown, and Talmud, I think.
Yeah. You were less than impressed with his cheaply manufactured weapons and gear. But they're not expensive, and he has a lot of them. So you're able to get everything you need.
I think Talmud shows up to one of the times when they're supposed to like be reconvening to kind of gather supplies, and he's got like a long list that he's written out of all of the things that he thinks that they're going to need, and he's going to just kind of walk in and he's going to start rattling them off. Okay, I figure we need at least 5 ladders. We need a battering ram. We need all of the equipment that we're going to have to use to make the trebuchet once we arrive. I think maybe some casks of oil would be good to have. Some grappling hooks.
Where are you going to get the lumber?
What? There's lots of trees around. I figure we just...
There are not.
You haven't seen a tree since you left Lonelywood.
I'm a liar and a sneak thief. So we'll have to bring the lumber as well then.
Where were you? Were you talking to the other Dawnbringers, or was this going into the outfitters that you were saying all this to?
I think it's probably with at least 1 or 2 of the other Dawnbringers, maybe as we're like walking into the outfitters.
Okay, so yeah, this dwarf that's there as you come in, just like you said, I imagine as you're walking through the door, you start listing all of this. You hear that sort of toon, tune of the hammer, and then it just sort of stops. He lets you go on, Drown sort of talking to you, and then he's like, right, hold on a minute. And he's looking past you. Right. When are the rest of them coming? The army you're clearly looking to outfit.
Oh, no, it'll just be us.
Right. That's good. Seriously, though, what can I do for you? What?
He looks like completely deflated at this point.
So is this also like general store sort of deal, or is this the... Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. He sells all manner of adventuring supplies, rations, cold weather gear, ice pick, snowshoes, all that good stuff.
Then Drown will say, we require climbing equipment.
You might as well get double. His stuff is crap.
Wait a minute.
Oh, wait, this is that same dwarf, huh? Did you make the climbing equipment?
Well, if it's metal, I've made it here. Yeah.
Right. So
I stand by everything.
You said
he reaches over to
Drown picks up one of his daggers and breaks it. Tink.
I'm not even going to make you roll for that. It just breaks.
I will pay for that.
You're goddamn right you will. But I stand by. That was an earlier one. This will do you just fine. He's got one of those climbing axes, and he slams it into the edge of one of the timbers that's around by where his forge is. Drown, why don't you go ahead and roll me a D100?
I will delightedly roll you a 80%, sir.
He's got 16.
As he slams it into the wood, you all hear this peculiar sort of ping sound. Thorgarn, you know that is the sound of a metal handle that is just cracked. You were within, there was a 25% chance, and you were within 22. So,
right. You stand by the crap that you make that breaks when you use it. So that you can make more money.
I'm pretty sure that's not even supposed to happen. Cantriel walks over and puts her hand on the axe and mends it for him. See, it's supposed to look like that when you're done.
Right. Right. Well, it's lucky for you. Anything you want is on a 40% discount.
I just saved you 100% having to save yourself making another axe.
Drown looks at the rest of the present Dawnbringers and says, 40% of a fall down the mountain will still likely kill us.
But you know what? He'll at least have his coin.
He will not have mine, except he'll pull out 2 gold and set it on the counter for the dagger.
You're all kidding me, right? She mends the dagger. Better than new.
Drown picks his money back up.
He looks over at you, looking at the dagger and the axe. Have you ever thought of going into business?
Why do you think I learned this trick?
Right, we could make a lot of money together, you and I.
Oh, no. No. I'm good. I'm busy.
You're very good. I can see that. Right. Well, you came in here looking for supplies. If you don't like the equipment I have here, then go talk to my sister. She's not going to sell you any of this stuff, but she sells sleds and dogs and other
Big's already
gear you
gone
might need.
towards the dogs. He turns and he leaves.
Talmud adds, trebuchets with like a raised eyebrow.
You know, I've never made a trebuchet. I've always wanted to try.
I recommend it.
As far as I can tell, you have never made a dagger.
Right.
There's Drown dealing that cold damage.
You know what? I want to show you something. Come with me. And he starts walking out. He walks out to the front, back through the front door, and he turns and he's staring up at the sign up above the door. Do you go out?
Right. Yeah, I'll go follow him. Sure. Drown's curious.
As soon as you all follow him outside, he goes, "You see that?
Yes.
That tells you that this is my store." He walks back in through the door and slams it shut, and you hear a heavy bar. And then there's a little opening that opens up, and it just goes.
How's this sign looking, Jake?
The good news is, if we wanted to get in, the door wouldn't stop us.
It's weather worn. It says
Cantriel mends the sign.
Next door, Fig is this storefront is attached. It's still has the same black iron blades insignia, but there is a female dwarf just inside that Fig has already apparently made a beeline for. Right. Well, hello there. What can I do for you?
I heard from your brother that there are dogs here for sale.
Well, yes, that's correct. We sell dogs and sleds and other such gear. Anything you might need if you're heading out into the tundra. We've got right now we've got 6 dogs that are ready to go. A few dogs that have already been rented out or sold out. How many were you looking to purchase?
We would like 3, please. And a sled.
Absolutely no problem there. We'll
May
be sure.
I choose the dogs?
Yes, actually. If pardon me for being so bold with you, if you don't mind, but I can't help but notice that you are, well, a metal man, if I may be so blunt. Where do you come from?
The water. Well, from a workshop within the water. That was actually maybe in another dimension.
Right.
But I'm not sure about that one yet.
Well, that doesn't... Alright. Well, there's not exactly the answer I was hoping for, but although I don't really know what I was hoping for. You see, you're not the first metal being I've seen recently.
Fig's head just like cocks to the side. He would follow.
Come with me. And you're being led towards the sound of barking dogs. As you head back through the backside of the shop and into this area behind it where the kennels are, you see that there's on either side the kennel cages are set up, but there's an area, this sort of yard area that's open where it looks like they probably train the dogs and they let them run around. And you see the dogs come running past you and just hear them barking. And then you see behind, you see coming from another direction, from out of sight, you see as you see Hermes go running past. The dogs all chasing him. And then Hermes goes running past again, and the dogs go chasing him. As the dwarf looks up at you and she says, he's been here about a week, and he's been the best at exercising the dogs. He tends after them. Doesn't say a word, mind you. But I can't get him away from the dogs. He just keeps tending to them. Seeing as he's of a similar make and model, if you will, as you, I hate to ask this. It happens to me all the time with dwarves. When people ask because I'm a dwarf, hey, do you know so-and-so, knuckle cutter, sledgehammer, or whatever? And I don't. But you don't by chance know who or where this one comes from, do you?
At that, I think Fig would let out this very distinct, like, whistle, but it sounds very mechanical, like a mechanical, like a work whistle, that like doo doo, like that kind of like whistle. And he would that he is used to calling back Hermes, and so he would let out to see if Hermes would come to him, because that's
I think as soon as you make that sound, you hear, and here comes Hermes around the corner, comes striding up towards you. He stops. I just realized we lost Ed. He stopped. Jeremy's accommodating. Hermes comes marching right up to you, and he hold on, I need to bring up the participants. There we go. He comes to a halt, and 6 dogs come running up right behind him, and they all, in this almost perfect semicircle, as soon as Hermes stops, all of the dogs stop and sit, healing perfectly next to Hermes. And he just sort of makes this ratcheting sound, and his whole entire upper torso and arms just kind of spins around a couple times, and he kind of boop, boop, bops up and down a little bit, and then just stands there looking at you.
I miss you as well. And Fig just like begins to look to him immediately, like his focus like turns and is like looking at him for like any kind of like malfunctions or anything like that, and kind of while his focus is still on Hermes, he just responds, "This is Hermes. Where did you find him?"
Oh, well, that's more that Hermes found me, actually. We were out, like I said, about a week ago, and we were out on a run. We moved through the towns, delivering and picking up supplies, and we just found him, trudging through the snow. Snow was up to his waist. It looked like he was coming down. I thought he'd come all the way from Mount Reghead. And he was just trudging along, hasn't said a word, could barely move, lots of rust and gears freezing up, but we picked him up and we warmed him up. A little bit of, a liberal application of oil, and all that took was to get him oiled up. And aside from 4 hours a day, this fellow's on the move constantly. But he took a liking to the dogs and has pretty much been staying out here with them the whole time.
As Fig is looking at Hermes, does he notice anything, any abnormalities or anything significant about anything that's on his body?
Looking over, go ahead and give me an investigation check.
17.
So you're checking out Hermes, and you can see some obvious signs where it almost looks like maybe either Ezra or her brother Garn may have pried at a couple of the metal plates in an attempt to fix him, or who knows. You can see tool marks where somebody didn't know what they were doing, and something slipped or whatever. But the most noticeable thing is that there is a puncture on his lower back that is a bright, if you've ever seen like when you take a metal like bronze or brass and you gouge into it, there's that brighter colored metal. There's a puncture and then this big long drag all the way up his back. The puncture is about 2 inches in diameter. It looks like something came. The puncture sort of goes in a downward angle, and then the gouge goes up his back. So it looks like he suffered some kind of damage.
I would recommend in the future that you do not try and repair something like this. It is way beyond your skill set. And as he's like looking and moving Hermes.
She kind of looks over in the direction of the blacksmith area and she says, that was Garn. He viewed Hermes as more of a thing and wanted to completely tear him apart, and started pulling at some of these here. But this was here when we found him, pointing to the big puncture and gouge. Fig, go ahead and make me an insight check. And I'll say do that at advantage.
Okay, 14.
You feel in your mind a connection trying to be established. When you took over Archimedes, when you defeated Archimedes and you took her brain gem and absorbed it, one of the things that did for you was it gave you access to the neural network that connected her to all of the other automatons. And you are basically like a system administrator of that. They cannot directly connect to you unless you allow it. Hermes is attempting to is basically giving the equivalent of a hey, I'm here in the Zoom call, will you let me in?
I think yes, actually, yeah. I think Fig would right away like let that open up his mind, and let that connection go through.
So what you get is Hermes doesn't communicate in words. He doesn't communicate in any form of language. You get images. You get the equivalent of a fast-running, being a machine like this, I imagine it plays out almost like it's in real time, but it happens in just a few seconds. And you essentially see, going back to when you left, the Dawnbringers left the Evangeline to go to shore. You see the reduced sized apparatus Aqualish with the dwarves in it come scuttling up the deck and going overboard. And the rest of you, you're seeing from Hermes' perspective as the rest of you all head up to the Feywild. And you see a period of time where Hermes is just... if you watched it in sped up, you would just see a lot of back and forth. Hermes constantly pacing on the ship. And then you see that Hermes seems to stop moving. You see Hermes looking at the other members of the crew and everybody as they become panicked, and a shadow comes down, and you actually see Arviatris come swooping out of the sky and grab the entirety of the Evangeline. And you watch as the crew is scrambling, trying to figure out what to do. They're all trapped on the ship as it's pulled higher and higher, and continues for a long time. But you notice that from the time that Arviatris has grabbed hold of this ship, you never see Hermes move again. It's all from a lockdown position. And through this connection and him swiveling his head around and stuff, you get the impression that one of Arviatris's talons pinned him to the deck as she was carrying the ship, and that is where the gouge and the puncture came from. So for days, the dragon flew, occasionally stopping in a place where the ship would be high on a mountain, and she would basically roost next to, with her wings covering the ship. It was always in a position where nobody could get out. People didn't dare. They were hiding in the hold, doing whatever they could to not waken the ire of the dragon. Eventually, seeing this play back, you see as things grow mistier and then colder, you see the snows coming, indicating as the dragon's flying into the north. And it's hard to tell exactly what happens, but at some point the dragon seems to be struggling with the ship, and does this thing where she lets her claws loose to try to get a new grip on the ship. And in doing so, what you see is the perspective of Hermes as the ship breaks into two pieces. The bow of the ship falling, as the dragon fortunately seems to be low enough. The ship crashes down into the side of a snow-covered mountain, and you see Hermes clinging on, holding to the other half, as the dragon glances back but doesn't seem concerned with that portion of the ship. Everybody holding up inside this portion, at least as far as you know, holding up in the stern of the ship. But from Hermes' perspective, he is clinging on to some broken piece of timber. You see some of the crew trying to help him, and then you watch as the ship and the dragon recede away, and then there's this plume of snow as Hermes has clearly fallen out of the sky and crashed. And you watch as, from Hermes' point of view, you see the dragon flying away with the stern of the ship. Brilliant shades, curtains of light in green and blue in the sky, flying towards a massive mountain. And then the view shifts. For a while it becomes covered with snow, and then you just see this view of Hermes just picking a direction and walking and getting slower and slower until eventually you see, as he encounters Ezra and Garn out in the tundra, just as she said, they encounter him, they rescue him, they bring him back, and then the rest of it is the last week. It's just you do see a period of time of Ezra chastising Garn as whenever he can. He keeps trying to jam tools in, trying to open Hermes up. Whenever she can, she tries to stop him. Hermes is just constantly there. He doesn't really know what's happening, so he doesn't stop it. Eventually Ezra is able to get him oiled up, and he just finds joy in working with the dogs. He knows medical stuff, it seems, and he's been able to work with the dogs whenever there's injuries or they need tending to, and that kind of catches you back up until the last thing you see is as Hermes hears the whistle and comes running around and sees you. And this all happens, as I said, in the span of just a few seconds.
You see like a few like very mechanical like iris like closing and opening as if Fig is like simulating a blink, and he rests his hand on Hermes' shoulder, and you have been through much, and I am sorry for leaving you. But we must go. And Fig looks back and just, we will be right back. I must go talk to the others. And he's going to take Hermes' hand and he's going to run back towards the other side where he thinks that the others are.
So you're pulling Hermes with you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I would say it would be about this time that the others, this would be right around the time their Cantriel has just finished mending the rundown black iron blade sign on the front, and they were just turning their attention toward where you were, as you all see Fig come emerging from the next door with Hermes, the other clockwork.
Oh, look. He's back.
Did he run all the way here?
Well, you've seen him in action. I wouldn't be surprised.
Is there any other way for Hermes to move?
I think fast and fast are the two settings I've seen.
Good
Well,
to see that he is well.
Good to see you again.
I have found Hermes.
Hermes is basically doing that R2-D2 thing where he's just kind of like, just kind of bouncing from foot to foot.
So how obvious is like the claw mark in his back?
I think you would notice it if you eventually. Hermes has this habit that he seems to have picked up where he will occasionally rotate his entire upper torso 360 degrees. So you would catch sight of that.
So does this look like it needs to be metallically pushed back together, like, with tools? Does it need magical healing? Does it need mending?
Either. It looks like it potentially could do with either or a mix of. I mean, there's a 2-inch hole open in him, which would account for why he had the rust that they had to deal with. And yes, Hermes has lately in my head looked like IG-88.
Oh, I totally have more of like a 209 kind of look in my head.
As well, I think I have seen where the ship is.
What?
You have.
You know where the crewmates are?
It is. I know where our Viatrix was headed when she took the ship. I did not see
Let's start.
exactly,
No, I mean,
but I saw the mountain.
the directions, really great. It's makes us kind of question which direction do we go? Do we go rescue the crew, or do we deal with Vi? Meanwhile, I'm gonna kind of investigate Hermes, and I'll try mending, see if that works, and if that only gets me part of the way, I will totally use healing.
I think it would take you a few minutes, mostly because Hermes doesn't hold still.
Sure.
But eventually you'd be able to use mending on him. and fix up that hole and the gouge. And if you wanted to, clean up the dents and dings of where Garn was trying to pry his way in.
Absolutely. I imagine there's a comical scene of the Dawnbringer sitting down to discuss things, and Thorgarn is running back and forth with Hermes.
The usual. Will you just hold still a minute? Except now it's ting 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 ting.
At one point, Thorgarn comes first, and then
so it's Thorgarn, Hermes, and all 6 dogs. It's the whole Scooby-Doo thing.
now we're in a Scooby. Yes.
pulling a dog sled. At one point, it's just the dog sled goes by.
I think after like the last pass, Cantriel just goes, Norman, can you hold on to one of them at least? And she'll cast Unseen Servant to hold on to Hermes.
As Hermes runs right into Norman the Doorman, the invisible servant, and Thorgarn, you're able to finish up your repairs.
So yeah, Fig will go into explanation about everything that he saw from the vision.
All right, so yeah, Fig tells you everything.
As far as where we should go first, with the dragon out of the picture, I don't know that the crew would have a whole lot more to fear or be in that much danger. I think Vi is the bigger threat.
Other than cold and starvation.
It depends on where the dragon was keeping them, if she was keeping them.
Well, we could always.
I'm not certain that. Go ahead.
Well, Drown, if you're willing, we could always try talking to Victor again in his sleep. See if there's been any change.
Certainly. We can do that any night you wish.
Here's to hoping there's, well, probably the sooner the better.
Tonight, then.
Fair enough. She looks a little hesitant because she's just thinking about the 4 little critters who kind of popped out after the last dream, and she's still wondering if she's someone's new mommy.
Another litter.
Oh, dear God.
Cantriel has to open a beholder orphanage.
This is gonna be one of those situations. This is like a setup for a whole new campaign. That little did you know that you basically unleashed a beholder plague on the Forgotten Realms.
Can we have
child support or vision care?
And spectators? Oh my!
Well, they're from what you saw, they were gazers. All right. So any other supplies you would want to be able, or you would want to get, Ezra, because of the rudeness of her brother, does cut you a deal. And you can get whatever supplies you need, plus the dogs and the sleds and everything, for 200 gold.
So Thorgarn would, if at all possible, talk to her and find out, did something go wrong? Did someone screw him up? Why does he not have, any pride in his work?
So you're going to go talk to Garn?
No. To his sister.
Oh, you're talking to her.
Yeah, I tried to talk to him, and he doesn't give a crap.
He's my brother, and I love him dearly. But that's something he got from our father, is his stubbornness and his unwillingness to admit when he's wrong, and unfortunately, like our father, Garn cares more about quick coin than he does about his integrity or the quality of work.
Well,
And ever since this, he's been making good coin. Lots of people are heading out, trying their hands out in the tundra at various things, searching around. There's lots of adventure to be had, and so people head out into the cold with black iron blades at their side, and they'll usually have to come back when their blades break and get more.
the problem is eventually someone's going to die because of it.
Well, you're not wrong.
I'm too thick-headed to try and fight that battle. But if you're kin, and if you care about him, I don't know if it's possible to change at this point in time, but it's something that I care about, and I think that he knows what he's doing, but he gets to a point and says, "Good enough." And as a fellow smith, as a servant of Moradin, it was actually pretty painful to watch.
Well, Garn, and she kind of lowers her voice a little bit. Garn doesn't believe in Moradin.
No. If you talk to him, I'm pretty certain that I'll be passing back through here. I can talk and I can teach and I can show that he's out there. I've met him, I've spoken to him, or at least his avatar. My friend's hammer out there is my cousin, actually. I worked on that hammer, and Moradin himself came down and bestowed a blessing upon it. Every one of these friends out here can tell you, can show you it happened.
Well, I don't doubt anything that you're saying. That's Garn is the one that would need the convincing. And if that's a task you want to take on, you're more than willing to. And you're more than willing to, then have at it. But you seem like you've got bigger knucklehead to fry.
There's always something that's there, but if you could say something to him and he'd be willing to talk with me, I'll do it. But where he's at now, he is not willing to hear what I have to say.
Well, I'll see what I can say to him. I'll talk to him, and if you do come back through here and you want to try your hand again, then he's all yours.
Excellent.
All right.
Well, I'll head out.
Okay, I did finally find what I was looking for. That your casting of mending on Hermes does actually cause him to be repaired and regain hit points. It was buried on. I don't know if you remember that he's there, but you have Hermes on your character sheet. I actually forgot he was there. I was trying to remember where it was. Yeah. Anything else that anybody wants to talk to Ezra about, or anything else you want to do?
No, I think Drown's ready to head out whenever everyone else is.
I do think before we
Go ahead.
I think before we head out, Fig is going to go. First, though, are we going to where we? Sorry, did we make a decision on where we were going? To Vi or?
Yeah, we're gonna follow the map that the Dragonborn showed us about, and we're gonna go deal with Vi.
And I think we were going to check in with the crew via dream spell.
Okay. So before we leave, then, Fig is going to go to Hermes. Now that we have found you, we are more than happy to have you come with us. But when you showed me your memories, I realized that you have thoughts and feelings, and that you have grown an attachment to helping out at the shop with the dogs. And so I will give you your own choice. Would you like to come with us, or would you like to stay here? And I will not be hurt on whatever decision you make, but I feel that you can make this decision yourself.
Hermes sort of looks towards you and just... And he starts to... He's flipping 180 degrees as he's looking towards all of you. Then he spins around and he's looking towards the shop and Ezra and listening to that sound of the other barking dogs. He takes a step towards the shop and he turns and he looks at you. And you're getting through the neural network. You're seeing Hermes in front of you, but you're also picking up on his impressions and sort of his thoughts and seeing what he's seeing. And you watch this. It's a more complex thought than you've seen Hermes have, but he's sort of honing in on the familiarity of these dogs that he's grown to like, and the familiar figure of Ezra. Though you know that when Garn comes into view, there's sort of a red, like almost like a red line around him, like does not like. And then he turns and he looks at all of you, and you just see these pings of familiarity and what can only be interpreted as joy as he looks at each and every one of the Dawnbringers. And then he looks back in the other direction, and the calculation that happens that finally makes him make his decision is you see that he realizes that if he goes with you, there's 6 dogs. If he stays here, there's only 3 dogs. And Hermes decides that he's going to stay with you. More precisely, Hermes decides he's going to stay with the 6 dogs, and it's an extra bonus that all of you are there.
Yeah, Fig sees that and he nods when Hermes, he sees that Hermes has made his decision, and he says, then you are now, because you have made this decision, you are now a member of the Dawnbringers, and as such, you must have a job, and you will be given the dog, or the job, the job of dog keeper. It is your responsibility.
Hermes does the equivalent of a small child that can't believe what they've seen as he completely collapses on the ground in a heap. And then you watch as he just sort of almost entirely using the strength of his legs, just stands back up and sort of ratchets around a couple times, and then just immediately over to the dogs. He looks at them and he pings you one more time on the neural network, querying whether or not you have given the dogs names.
Big would say that he has. Yeah. And he would tell them.
You would see where he absolutely absorbs these names and immediately identifies each one, locking them into his memory. And Fig,
you see that the nameplates popping up over the dogs in his.
You actually see something as soon as you give him this official job. As once he sort of assigns the names and looks at them, he looks at all 6 of them the same, regardless of the fact that he's more familiar with the 3 that you just purchased. But he goes to all of them and he starts unhooking them and rearranging them as he seems to. It's not entirely clear what he's doing. You only understand, Fig, for as long as the neural network is connected, that he can tell from the genders of the dog and their temperaments which ones are better matches, as he immediately just starts and rearranges them in a way that makes more sense to him and will translate to a slightly I'll say mechanically, it means that anybody handling the dogs will get advantage on animal handling checks because Hermes has paired them up according to temperaments. Right around this time, Baron shows up, and Baron has heavy cold weather gear on, a pack of his own with, you see that he's got some a couple of ice axes, and he's got some snowshoes strapped to the pack and a few other things. And he comes walking up to all of you, and he immediately looks at where you're standing, and he says, "Oh, I sure in the 9 hells hope you didn't buy any of your gear from that fella."
No, but we fixed some.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, it's all right for some of these new kids heading out for the first time. It'll do them all right. By the time anything would break, well, they've already decided the adventuring life's not for them. But you all know you can do a lot better than that. So, are we heading south to Sunblight?
Looks that way.
All right, so unless anybody has anything else they want to do, you all can begin making your trek south to Sunblight. So you will head out through town to the south gate. You have the map that the Dragonborn provided all of you. And you're able to get going. I am trying to figure out where is the. Let's see. This one. It's gonna take you. You guys are told that it'll probably take you, depending on the weather, 2 to 3 days to get to the base of the mountain where this fortress is. Heading part of the way, following a road that comes in through the mountains, but you'll have to break away from that. So you're planning on 2 to 3 days overland, mostly over open snow, and you're well supplied, so you are on your way. I think this is probably a good place. It's a few minutes early, but a good place to go ahead and take a break as we prepare for some survival checks, I'm sure, as you're moving through the wilderness. And we all know how that turned out last time as you encountered an ancient white dragon. So, well, at least you know that can't happen again. At least not with our Beatrice.
See, I was about to say that, and then I thought better of it.
Well, you did learn that there is another ancient white out there somewhere, the sometimes mate of our Beatrice. So with that, thank you to everybody who's tuned in so far, sticking with us. We appreciate you, and stick around. We'll be back in about 10 minutes for some more Dawnbringers. And we're back. We had to take a little bit longer of a break, but that's fine. I do need to go in here and make an adjustment because I just realized I also never gave you the domain die from oh wait, there wasn't one. Was there? I was thinking we had a subscription in here earlier. We didn't. That was from yesterday. But our good friend Joey P, aka Chameleon Fam, has just showed up and is making the usual entrance, just throwing domain dice all around. So I need to adjust that number by just a couple.
Why not?
As you are now up to 145 domain dice. So thank you, Joey, for that. Also, welcome back, Zephyr. It is good to see you. We've missed you. And welcome to everybody who's hanging out with us in the chat, whether you're in chat or you're lurking quietly. We appreciate you all the same. So, as we come back, we are cutting to Bryn Shander quickly fading into the background as you are all on your dog sleds heading south toward Sunblight, preparing for a couple days journey. Now, something that I do need to have happen is Thorgarn and Fig. I need each of you to roll me a D100.
$92.
74.
Okay. So I'm going to try to do this right because I screwed this up in our Call of Cthulhu game, sending a message intended for one person to somebody else. Fig, this is a new flaw that you have for an indefinite period of time. What was your number, Thorgarn?
74.
And you can slowly work. It doesn't just suddenly hit you, but this is something that over the last day or so has begun leading up to you leaving. This is something that's just started to crop up. And Thorgarn, for you, this is your new flaw. So there you go. You are heading out into the snowy, dark terrain. Though it's always snowy, it's always dark. Who among you is taking point as the primary navigator?
My survival's +6 if anybody's got better.
Nope. Thorgarn, I need you to go ahead and make me a survival check.
Can Drown assist?
Sure.
To give him advantage, use help.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's decently skilled at it, but yeah,
It's going to be
+4.
It's going to be an 18.
Okay. How long are you guys planning to drive? Pretty much drive the dogs all day and then take a rest at night? Are you going to travel in shorter bursts? How do you plan to travel, knowing you have 2 to 3 days of travel?
And I think we should take care not to exhaust them, but yeah, just do whatever they can take comfortably.
Okay. Fortunately, both Fig and Hermes have done a wonderful job of taking care of the dogs. At least on this first day, they're very fresh and are able to continue running without much problem. Go ahead and make me another survival check as we move into the afternoon.
That is going to be a natural 20 for a 26.
All right, so you've been making really good. So your first day, you're able to navigate following Trovis's map between sort of referencing. Baron seems to reference the sky whenever there's clear sky to see the stars, and it has the later part of the day has cleared enough that you are able to see the spine of the world in the distance, the massive mountain range that you are heading toward. It would be very difficult to miss it, but you at least know you're on track for this first leg of the journey. So your first day passes without incident. Has been a very long day. It is what would be traditionally nightfall if there were a distinction of day and night here in the north. What are you going to do to set up camp? He said, looking at Fig, who's been dying.
I imagine that everyone's kind of setting up camp, getting ready, getting the dogs done, and you see that Fig usually helps with getting things set up, but maybe perhaps to the annoyance of the others, he's not helping at this time. He is reading his book, the book that Copernicus gave him. He's sitting there and he's reading it, and he's like very attentive reading it, and is flipping back and forth in these pages, and then all of a sudden he gets up and he begins to walk away, like a little bit away from the camp, and just kind of stand out in the middle of this tundra wasteland. And he stands there for a really long moment, and you see him kind of looking to the right and looking to the left. And then all of a sudden, and with Fig, everything is very purposeful, so he just like lifts his arms up on either side. And he just stands there for a moment, silence. And then all of a sudden, you just feel things begin to shake. The ground begin to shake. You feel the whole area around you begin to move and to sway, and the wind changes, and it just feels like there is something there's something large happening with this this space. It becomes this like negative space, and it just feels very, very odd. And then all of a sudden you see erupt from the ground just a small doorway, just kind of into existence, and that's it. Nothing else. Just this small little doorway. And this is after a minute of time, and then Fig turns to the rest of you who are setting up camp, and he looks. If you will all follow me, I feel as though this will be a much better place for the night. And he disappears into the door.
Huh. And Drown just sort of picks up his packs and heads in and ducks under the door frame and heads in.
We couldn't bring a trebuchet, but Fig can bring a door. That's okay.
Oh, I think this is more than just a door. And she'll slip her crystal bead back into her hair like giddy.
Hermes just looks at you and walks right between the two of you, Cantriel and Talmud. And you just watch as the 6 dogs follow Hermes as they go inside.
So Thorgarn, he's looking at all of what's going on, and there's definitely like a confused but worried look on his face. and he is like investigating this door, looking around it at Cantriel and Talmud, and it's like clear as day on his face that he does not feel comfortable with this. Are we sure?
Talmud looks around the back side of the door. Huh. Sticks his arm like through it, like trying to see.
Let me get this straight. You both talk to the dead, but you're questioning the door, and she's gonna walk right through and in.
The dead don't use doors.
What do you think, cousin?
Well, I think it's strange, but Fig seems to know what he's doing, at least for the most part.
We're sure that that's Fig, right? I mean,
Who
Fig
else
usually helps
would-
set up camp. He didn't help set up camp.
I don't think that's any reason to think that he's been possessed. Maybe he just wasn't feeling well.
Well, we've seen possession before.
I think we've been on the road too long, cousin. He's gonna pat Thorgarn on the shoulder.
Listen to him, Thorgarn. I think he knows what he's saying. Come on. Maybe you get inside out of the cold. You won't be so worried. Otherwise, you're going to be standing out here all by yourself, Baron says as he holds the door open, waiting for you, just sort of gesturing and waiting to see if you go in.
So he takes a look around, like painstakingly looking in a full 360 degrees a couple of times, and does like that slow inch where you put your foot out just a little bit into the doorway and see what happens.
Talmud's gonna push him.
Thank you.
And there's this moment where, as you push him and presumably follow through, Baron just kind of takes a look back, walks through, and out in the middle of the tundra, in the dark and blowing snow, a lone door closes. Fig, what do they see inside?
Oh, Fig shows this magnificent. So you walk in and it's this beautiful foyer. It's huge. It looks very much like the Lady Vantage is foyer. Like when you walk in, very much so. Except it's Fig, and he loves color, and so everything is just this wacky color. Like there's a purple chandelier and bright blue wallpaper, pink carpet, and it's like a bag of Skittles threw up on a house kind of thing. And it's huge, but it's immaculate, and you can see, obviously Fig has not seen very many nice houses or nice like these expansive mansions like other than the Lady Vantage, and but you do see something that you don't recognize, which is these adamantine walls in some places, and like a library in some parts. It was for Fig when he was at the library in the other dimension. He's taking memories from that and implementing it and weaving it in and through what looks to be like Lady Vantage's home. And for Talmud and Thorgarn, as soon as you walk in, it's warm, it's inviting. The fire is like this neon pink color, and you see these tiny little robots on wheels that look kind of like Fig, except they have like a wheel that they run around on, but they still have that same like blue magic glow about them, and they wheel around, and one comes up to you and has some wine that it presents to the both of you.
Whoa. Sure. He kind of like looks at the robot with a wheel and then kind of reaches out and grabs this wine. Isn't it good?
Not poisoned, is it?
What? Thorgarn? I mean, technically, it's all poison.
So we should be suspect?
No, I think you've done enough of that for today.
And you see that there is a small room that is open, and beyond it, you see a table laden with food, a 9-course banquet.
Can there be a giant ham?
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Just whatever you could imagine is there. But of course it's fig, so maybe things like are a little weirdly colored, except for you could obviously see that and then fig comes in to all of you. I found this in one of Copernicus's books. I had missed this spell.
Well, it's very handy. This is
It's
incredible.
fantastic.
And he smiles, and I hope you enjoy the food. I made it a bit more interesting. You can see like some of the food is like sparkly and like iridescent, and you can see these lights playing around it, and it's so fig and just like very, very extra.
Some of it's moving. Like,
Yeah.
I just imagine this constant. Anytime you need something, a glass of wine is empty, whatever, there's these little mini wheeled figs that are constantly zipping around. They go into like right at the baseboards. There's these little doors that just they never collide. They're constantly zipping around, bringing you what you need. I always love to see everybody's interpretation of Mordenkainen's Magnificent Mansion. It's incredible. I love this one.
it's so great how much of a peek inside of Fig's head it is. like how things work inside his brain. I love it.
So let's see. We've got Figby's hand, and didn't we name another one something Fig related? This could be Fig's Fabulous Fortress. I don't know.
I love that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, the view is a little askew as Dan has apparently crashed. But we'll continue on as we wait for Dan. Let me make sure he's not waiting on me to let him in.
So outwardly, Thorgarn will calm down, but he is never the first one to eat or drink anything, and not the first one to into any room.
I also think that Fig would have decorated. So each of you also get your own room to sleep in for the night, and I think that he would have absolutely decorated it after the Lady Vantage. So where the rooms were all very strangely catered to all of you, that is exactly what he would have done as well, just from the memory of seeing everyone's room. And
But it's like Fig's interpretation of like what's
Yes.
perfect for everybody.
yes, yep.
Fantastic.
Yeah, in Talmud's room, there's just a bunch of axes everywhere that are all different colored.
Excellent.
All right. So, you've got, you've got a wonderful meal rooms decorated, however, Fig's interpretation of Lady Vantage's decorations. And would you have created a room for Baron? And would you have created a room for Hermes?
Yes.
All
Yeah,
right.
he can create 50 cubes of space. So he, like, with each cube being 10 feet. So this place is like huge. Yeah, he would create, though Barons, and he would also have created one for the Dragonborn, Trovis?
Trovis didn't actually go with you.
Oh, didn't he? Okay, I thought he did.
Trovis
Okay,
had
then he
given
would
you
know. But, yeah.
had given you the map and the directions, and is not with you.
Okay. I imagine the place for Hermes is actually just like a track just around the mansion, just like on the outside, you know, where you could see like he has like windows and stuff where he can, you know, look into like the banquet hall and stuff. But yeah, he would just be able to do laps around the mansion.
Is it like more like a laid out widthwise like a mansion, or is it tall like a tower, or a little bit of both?
I imagine it's just this weird mixture of both. Fig doesn't understand floor plans, so it would just be, yes, Cantriel's room is off the kitchen, and then Talmud's room is upstairs to the left, so it would just be like all this mishmash of rooms that do not make sense, because Fig doesn't need that kind, like, yeah, he wouldn't understand that.
I see the Lady Vantage's mansion meets the Weasley's place meets the TARDIS.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Excellent. And I think this just in the in what happened at the beginning, this, I may have neglected to say this, but Trovis was one of those people, the Dragonborn was one of those people that while you were all drinking, he was like, oh yeah, I'll absolutely go with you. This is how you get there. But the next day when he sobered up, he was like, oh yeah, I can't really go with you. He ends up making excuses, and he's like, but here's how you get there and have fun. There wasn't anything necessarily like fishy about it. It was just like, he's the guy that while drinking, he's like, yeah, I'll do that. We'll conquer the world. And then the next day he's like, yeah, I can't even conquer my, the pile of dishes in the kitchen. I'm not conquering the world. So excellent. Does anybody have anything they want to deal with over the night, or are you just going to enjoy your evening in the mansion?
I believe we're going to send a dream.
Oh, that's right. You were going to send another dream to Victor.
Less eventfully, Talmud is going to have a bath. A hot bath.
Nice. You wish to contact Victor again?
That'd probably be a wise thing to do, all things considered. See if there's any aftermath with our doing away with Arviatris and his having been cooped up in that golden cage.
Very well. Are you ready?
As I'll ever be. And she's looking around the room that Fig's created for her, and she's kind of just like, yep, okay, let's go.
Right. So Drown will begin his chant. His tattoos will glow with that green wavering light, and he'll sprinkle that fine sand across Cantriel's shoulders and daub little bits of squid ink on the back of her hands, and a minute into a trance.
As the spell begins to take effect, Cantriel, you feel yourself as you're entering this dream state. It feels like you're pushing through some kind of resistance. It's as if you were... I guess the closest thing that comes into mind is the Pensieve children when they're moving through the wardrobe into Narnia, and they're pushing through all of the cloaks and the furs and stuff before they emerge into Narnia. You're feeling this enclosing. It's something, and whether it feels like snow or branches or cloth, you can't really tell, but you're kind of pushing through, and it's giving way, but there's just this little bit of resistance. And after a few minutes, you find yourself emerging once again into what looks like the captain's quarters on the Evangeline, where you had previously encountered Victor in the dream state. This time, though, when you emerge, you see the captain's quarters, and you see what looks like 4 balls bouncing around, boom, 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 ricocheting off of walls, and poor Victor in the middle is just spinning in circles, his eye stalks looking all directions. Oh, please, why can't you just hold still for a minute? Constantly bouncing around. Hey, Cantriel, you didn't happen to bring a net with you, did you?
No, I didn't. Children, sit down.
Make a persuasion check.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought. That's a 30.
A 30?
I rolled a 17 and I have a 13.
Wow. Almost immediately, these 4 balls just in a perfect line in front of you. They sort of bounce to the ground, and then they just hover up until they're sort of just bobbing lightly in the air in front of you. As you see these 4 gazers that are floating there. And each one of them, of course, they're roughly 8-9 inches in diameter. They have 4 tiny eye stalks, a single eye, tiny little mouths that each one of them only has like 1 or 2 little teeth that are just coming through. Oh, sure. You listen to her. Cantriel, allow me to introduce you to Victoria, Vesper, Vandal, and Martin.
Victoria, Vesper, Vinton, and Martin?
Vandal and Martin.
Vandal and Martin. Why not just
Gotta
1,
say,
2,
I
3,
thought that
4?
was one name for the first one. I'm like, I want the second one.
This is Victor, Vesper, Vandal, Martin.
And the other 3.
It's all hyphenated.
Yeah.
Nope, just all run together. One just boom. I'm like, wow,
Or maybe that
smart.
one's Victoria and that one's Vandal and this one, I don't know. I can't.
He's doing
tell
it to them
apart.
too.
Right. I can't keep them straight.
Well,
Hey, it's good to
yes.
see you again.
You too. How's it? She's looking at all 4 of them. How are you?
Well, being a new parent, I'm kind of new to this. To be perfectly honest, the way I was sort of told this thing kind of worked is if I were to become a parent, they generally go off and do their own thing. I'm beginning to see why others of my kind are solitary creatures. Do you have any idea what it's like to be holed up in a place, unable to get away? There's a literal magical cage holding us here. I cannot escape them, and they can't leave me.
I have an inkling of what that might be like sometimes, yes.
Well, so that's how it's going. I'm afraid they might be driving me, into rational thought.
Well, that... So the cage is still going on here, huh?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, let me go check on that. And Victor sort of slowly, he's floating in the air, but it gives the impression of somebody that's slowly creeping away, trying not to alert the kids that they're leaving the room. And just as he leaves through the door, on the opposite side of the room, through a door that wasn't there but is now there, the other version of Victor emerges. Comes into the room. Ah, Cantriel, you have returned.
Yes.
Children, leave. And the four gazers just float up, and they slowly move out through the door that he came in. What brings you here again?
I wanted to see if there was any change recently to your situation.
In our situation, nothing has changed. We are still trapped. This magical cage of energy holds us here. There's nothing that I can do to get past it. We had hoped that perhaps the children could pass through the spaces, but they will not fit, and I'm afraid trying any further will damage them irreparably. And even I'm not cruel enough to do that.
No, let's not go there. Part of me was hoping there would have been a change.
Why? What has changed? What have you changed?
Less changed, more killed.
What did you kill? I am intrigued.
Something large, very old, very scaly.
You found the dragon.
We did.
Ah, and you killed it.
It was a group effort.
I have no doubt that if necessary, you could have killed it by yourself.
That's up for debate.
Well, it has not affected our predicament at all. Nor would I have expected it to.
Yes, well, it was still worth checking to see. So no new comings or goings outside of the, wee ones.
Oh, well, that's a different question altogether.
Well, then let's get an altogether different answer.
When last we spoke, we did not know for sure where we are, where we were, I don't know. It is
Presently.
dark. It is always dark. Until recently. She showed herself, and she was angry. And she was angry at you. All of you. She is very powerful. I think she might be a god.
She is not the dragon, then.
Oh no, the dragon gave us as a gift to her, to appease her.
Mm-hmm.
That is what we have learned. We are not with the others. We are
That is
with
good to know.
someone called Oriel.
Yes. Name we're familiar with.
I would gather as much from the anger you caused her. Perhaps it was killing the dragon.
Oh, may have bumped into her too.
She is not happy that you are here.
Let's just say the feeling's mutual.
You should be careful, all of you. If she is a god, and she is even a fraction as powerful as she appears to be, you are all in grave danger.
Sort of had a sense that might be the case. We're trying to be more careful about when, where, and how we interact with her if possible. Have you noticed anything about her that might be of help for us? In her anger, any tells, any bits of information she may have inadvertently revealed to you?
The most and only revealing she has done was letting down her guard at her anger at you. But we have learned something that might be useful. She leaves wherever it is that we are. She leaves every day. She takes to the sky, and we suspect she is renewing whatever magic she has hold over this area. Every night she heads out. She returns hours later, depleted.
That is good to know.
That is all we know. We still don't know where we are.
But she's weakest by the end of by the nighttime when she comes back.
She seems to be. She vanishes into the darkness, and we do not see her again. She does take off at other times. What she does, we do not know. She barely pays us any mind.
Well, Victor, that actually is very helpful.
We are glad we can be of service. We do hope that you are planning to
We are.
rescue us.
We are. We're trying to get what we need pulled together. Like I said, what you've just provided will be substantial. But it is our intention, yes.
We will keep our eyes peeled. And 2 of his 4 eye stalks wink.
Anything like this, any other details that you notice that may seem insignificant, make note. I'll see if I can make my way back, check in with you.
Well, our other aspect is quite busy with the children. It makes it easier for me to stay alert.
Well, that's good.
Well, the next time you visit, perhaps I will have more information for you.
Likewise on my side.
Do you stay for the entirety of the 8 hours of the dream, or do you leave early?
This time she doesn't. She will leave earlier.
As you are preparing to leave, and just, I imagine you just sort of make the decision that you're going to leave, and you already start to feel that same resistance begin to fold in around you. You watch as the Victor you were talking to floats out of the room, and the more erratic Victor comes flying in through the door, and just says, "What have you done?" as 8 gazers come flying in behind him.
By the way, that one is Tulip, Daisy, Rose, Jasmine. And that'll be the last thing she says as she leaves.
Better write those down. Keep it up. There's going to be a cage full of a spectator and a whole bunch of gazers.
It's gonna be
Maybe
like a
they'll be able
ball
to lift
pit.
the cage up and bounce away.
All right. And I imagine as you emerge from this dream, you just sort of settle into dreams of your own and carry out the rest of the 8 hours in a restful state. So you are all able to have your 8 hours of rest. Is there anything anybody else would like to do?
So Thorgarn would like to talk to Talmud. So he would either go to Talmud's room or, if possible, pull him into Thorgarn's room. So
I imagine Talmud might be like on his way back to his room from wherever the bathing chambers are, and like Thorgarn like grabs him. Yes, his hair's like, you know, in a towel, like curled up on his head.
So there's a lot going on out here in the snow. You know, dragons, and
Right.
gods, and monsters, and apparently even old friends that want to kill us. What the hell are we doing?
I mean, it's really not all that different from the rest that we've been doing this whole time, other than the snow. That part's new.
I'm pretty sure before it was like one thing at a time, you know, pretty direct. Now it seems to be all over the place.
Well, I'm not sure. I don't know why our troubles would be multiplying, but it seems to be the case. I don't know if it's simply because we're gaining more renown. It certainly seems like someone has it out for us.
Always seems that there's more than one direction, and just, you've always had my back, cousin. Just keep your eyes out. I think we're being watched.
I always will, Thorgarn. Are you all right? You seem a little more on edge than usual lately.
I don't know. There's just, like I said, it's too much.
Well, there are times when life heaps more than you can handle on your plate. And it seems as though you may not be able to get all the way through the meal, if you know what I mean. But one bite at a time. That's how we do it.
All right, I'll try that.
If you need help, I'm here, as always.
So, Fig, is there any chance that there's, you know, a forge in this room?
I do think that Fig would put something in there because he knows how much, obviously to Moradin and stuff like that, but I do think it would be on the side of maybe like a more of a an alchemist side, so I have a feeling that it'll be a forge, but it'll be quite small. Like it'll be like maybe half the size of a normal, and
like a jeweler's setup.
yeah.
Tiny little hammers.
Yeah, maybe just like half the size. Everything's just half the size, maybe a little bit too small. Also, if you're like dwarves, he's trying to like anticipate the size, so it's just going to be just very awkwardly too small. But I would say, since that is like your whole thing, and he kind of wanted to tailor the rooms to you, I do think there would be something in there. Yeah.
Awesome. So Thorgarn will probably spend some time not getting into the right headspace, so he doesn't do well with whatever he played around with, but he eventually kind of works himself into more of a frustrated sleep than a exhausted sleep.
Yeah, I picture very much like a Fisher Price My First Forge kit. All right. So anybody else? John and Cantriel, you did your thing. Thorgarn had some conversation. Talmud got a bath, water on his own terms. Anything Fig would be doing at that night?
Well, I think Fig would make sure like all of their gear is inside, like everything is inside, like so to the outside there'd be nothing, so all the dogs and everything is in there and they're all settled, and he'd be like that like very busy homeowner who just makes sure that everyone is okay and everyone's having, you know, a good time, and and I do think afterwards he's pacing back and forth in his own room, and he shakes his head and he looks back at the book that he had, the huge tome, and he's like looking through it again and again and over, and you see and he's going to study the book for the rest of the night, save for the 6 hours that he has to remain inactive.
Fig, there is a point where I imagine it's the clockwork version of somebody falling asleep while reading. As you're flipping through this book, you just start to turn the pages slower and slower as you move into that state, that trance-like state. And it just happens that as you drift into this state, it overlaps with Hermes also being in this state. And you're still connected. That neural network connection is open until you deliberately disconnect it. And so at this point, Hermes seems to be broadcasting to you. And what you see is something that everything went by so quickly when you saw the playback of everything that happened. This seems to be a particular section of that playback that Hermes, for whatever reason, is essentially dreaming about. And what you see is one of the nights when Arviatris rested atop a mountain, before the snow fully came, the ship in its entirety is nestled in the crook of the high peaks of some mountains. You can actually see through Hermes' eyes, you see the sun setting. So they're clearly not all the way into Icewind Dale yet, but to the north, you can see an unnatural darkness, close enough to see the beginnings of Auriel's magic. and you can hear the rustling. And at this point, this is probably the first point where Hermes is actually, the dragon Arviatris releases her clawed grip on the ship. And there's the sound of just a little bit of rending metal as that claw dislodges from Hermes, who had been pinned to the deck. And she settles her bulk into this mountain, wrapping her tail protectively around the ship to help hold it in place. One of her wings sort of curls over the ship, creating a partial canopy. And Hermes has a clear view of Arviatris with the figure stuck in the saddle on the back of her neck, which in this light of the setting sun, it is very clear, though Hermes doesn't seem to fully understand, it is very clear that this is a mummified skeleton that is perched in some sort of robes and armor stuck to the saddle. And you hear the voice of Arviatris speaking to this figure as they settle in, curling into rest. Another day or two, and we will be there, Melthorond. I will keep the ship, and I will keep whatever treasures of mine they left. But perhaps I will give that one. And she looks directly at Hermes. And the Beholderkin to the Frostmaiden as gifts. Perhaps she will continue to leave us alone. Yes, I know. We will have to travel far, further than intended. A quick trip to the Sea of Moving Ice to relieve the gifts, and then we will head home. Have you picked any that you favor, Melthorond? Yes. I can't help but wonder which of them will taste the best. But we must wait. And then we will find the ones called Dawnbringers. And we will get the rest of what is owed to us. And then her voice begins to grow quieter as she mutters to Melthorond. And as she drifts off to sleep, the last thing that she mutters is, I will kill the Dawnbringers, or die trying. And that is where we are going to end tonight's session. All right. Well, the Dawnbringers are started on their quest to deal with Vi, who is the aforementioned Druid problem. Getting a little bit of insight through some more clever use of the dream spell to get a handle on where Victor is.
Yeah, we're probably going to have to give that a rest unless we really need it.
Well, as far as you know, Victor's only dreaming of having 8 gazer children. As far as you know.
I mean, other Victor talked about trying to slip the kids through the bars of the cage.
Yes. So yeah. So there's that. We got to see Figs wonderful new spell, Mordenkainen's Magnificent Mansion, or Fig's Fabulous Fortress, however you want to call it. But I love just seeing how M customized that for Fig. Fantastic. And there's something, there's a bee in Thorgarn's bonnet, apparently, about something. But you're a third of the way towards Sunblight. We will see what the next day has in store. Next week, Thursday, we will, of course, return with episode 16 of the Dawnbringers, though we will be down one Dawnbringer. V will not be able to join us, but we will also be... So next week, let's see. On Monday night, we've got... Well, let's go to Sunday night. I'm going to just start at the beginning. Sunday night, I will be over on Talon and Claw for our usual Sea of Thieves shenanigans over there. On Monday night, you can catch Dwight and I. We are going to be previewing Wave 14 Unpainted Miniatures from WizKids. That'll be here on Mini Terrain Domain. As we announced previously, we have canceled the All That Glitters Dungeon of the Mad Mage stream. However, myself, M, Dwight the Big Bearded Nerd, D&D Jordan Lee, Ricky, and our newest addition that we can now officially announce that has joined, our friend Carrie, who has joined us for many Mythos Investigators, and whose voice you can actually hear as some of the various characters in the latest Sirenscape releases. She's an incredible voice actor, an absolutely amazing role player, and a great friend who will be joining us in Scribes and Scrolls, the Candlekeep Mysteries, which we are going to be premiering on Monday nights at 8 p.m., and that will be probably in the second or third week of May, following Jasper's Game Week. We're going to take our time to get things ready for that, and then we'll launch that one. Next Tuesday, you can find myself and M over on Dice on Ice RPG Twitch channel with more Curse of Strahd. M is an incredible DM in that campaign. Wednesday night, I believe, Wednesday night is the session 2 of Convergence that Jeremy is running right here on Mini Terrain Domain. That happens at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. And then next Thursday, as I said, is our Dawnbringers. Next Friday, you can find myself. Unfortunately, V will also not be there for that, but Ted will be DMing the rest of us in our untraditionally arcane all wizards game where I play Ordo Wonderbeard, the Beardomancer wizard. So lots of great stuff going on. Of course, I do want to also encourage you to check out the other MTD partner channels. D&D Jordan Lee has a lot of wonderful things going on over on their channel with video games and other things. I know there's a great stream that she does with Goblin Katie, Classic Brunch, where they play Classic WoW on Sunday mornings, so be sure to check that out. And of course, check out Dwight the Big Bearded Nerd on Big Bearded Nerd 21, the other third of MTD, with regular Let's Paint Tiny Things streams and stuff like that. Thank you everybody for tuning in tonight. We so greatly appreciate you and love seeing you every week. And of course, a tremendous thank you, as always, to Dan, V, M, Ted, and Jeremy, without whom it would just be me talking to myself for 3 hours. With that, we are going to go ahead and end the stream the same way we end every stream. And you can say it with me if you want.
Take me away.